Namaste and welcome to you all as we celebrate October as the Hindu Heritage Month, a month full of festivities, events, programs, and initiatives aimed at showcasing this rich and vibrant culture and sharing the message of peace, harmony, and mutual respect with our fellow Americans, friends, colleagues, and co workers. Congratulations to Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America for making this a reality with support from hundreds of Dharma based organizations and volunteers here in the United States, Canada, UK, and beyond. The Hindu American Foundation has contributed greatly since its inception in 2013 in California in supporting October as the Hindu American Awareness and Appreciation Month. This is also an opportunity for us to recognize and educate the world about the essence of Sanatana Dharma or the universal tradition, which is the apt name for Hinduism. It is the most comprehensive way of self realization and understanding the universal consciousness, and that yoga, Ayurveda, bhakti, Vedanta, philosophy are the essential tools along the way. The US Congress, including 19 United states and 33 cities, have proclaimed October as the Hindu Heritage Month. As of today, noting that Hinduism has contributed immensely to America throughout the years. This week's theme for our celebration is Celebrating Global Hindu and includes prayers, presentation, and keynote addresses. We plan to conduct similar sessions on themes of Hindu women and Hindu youth in upcoming months. This will be followed by prayer. Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I'll also read an English translation of it. May we hear with our ears that what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. With our steady body and mind, let us be immersed in divinity. May we attain fulfillment in our lives. May Indra, the king of gods, bestow well being on us. May Pushan, the all knowing, bestow well being on us. May Tarkshaya or Garuda destroy all evil in our lives. May Brihaspati also bestow well being on us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramji. We will move to Shubhashri ji for the shloka. Shubhashri ji is from Bangalore and currently lives in Folsom. Over to you, Shubhashri ji.
Namaste and thank you, Divyadeep ji, and wish all of you a very happy Hindu Heritage Month. And I'm honored and thanks for inviting me to this forum. Let's begin with some of the prayers. Namaste Satete Jagat Karanaya Namaste Chite Sarvalokashrayaya Namodvaita Tattvaya Muktipradaya Namo Brahmane Vyapine Shashvataya. Salutations to that being, to the Supreme Consciousness who creates and supports the different worlds. Salutations to that truth which is unequaled and who grants liberation. Salutations to that eternal supreme self who pervades all regions. Tvamekam Sharanyam, Tvamekam Varenyam, Tvamekam Jagatpalakam Svaprakasham. Tvamekam Jagatkaritri Patra Prahartre, Tvamekam Param Nishchalam Nirvikalpam. You are my sole refuge, worthy of my final choice. You are the one protector of the entire world with your self-radiance. You alone create, sustain, and destroy this universe. You are the one great motionless being, free from change. Vayam tvam smaramo, vayam tvam bhajamo, vayam tvam jagat sakshi rupam namamah. Sadekam nidanam niralam bhamisham bhavambodhipotam Sharanyam Vrajama. We think of you, we worship you, we bow to you. O witness to the drama of this life in this universe, we go to the shelter of that unique being, the basis of everything, self supporting, supreme, and a vessel in the sea of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shubhashri ji. That was melodious and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will move to our 3 10-minute presentations. We'll first go to Isan Katir ji. He is a California director of the Hindu American Foundation. Today, Isan ji will enlighten us with the prescription for the peaceful world, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. With that, please welcome Isan ji.
Thank you, DVD, for the great introduction. You know, there are millions of people looking for peace. In addition to the millions of Hindus who've come to America from North India, South India, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Malaysia, Fiji, Bali, there are millions of people in America, like I was, who weren't brought up in a structured religion, never were baptized, and who are looking for peace. And they, like I did, will find the Hindu Dharma, which I did when I was 19 years old, going to a Hatha Yoga class, and a Swami came to the class and started telling me about the cosmic concepts and the possibilities for mankind's potential, which are only found in the Hindu Dharma. And that has led me to marry a born Hindu girl and have 2 kids, and we had a wonderful life together, all along the lines of the Hindu Dharma. So in searching for peace, I think we want to expand. The Swami said to me that what happened years ago is the sages and rishis realized divinity within themselves, and after they did that, they could see divinity in all beings. And because of that realization and that insight, which they wrote down in the scriptures, they didn't want to harm anyone. So it was peace from the inside out. It's called, of course, ahimsa in the Sanskrit language. But it was a change in their consciousness that then radiated out as peace. It wasn't a peace enforced from the outside by the military, right? So I think that's how it will happen here. We won't have a televised debate between different religions and they'll vote and say, oh, yes, well, it's Hinduism, wins by a mile. It won't be like that. It'll just be a slow raising of our consciousness to where we see peace as the natural way to live. Not the eerie peace of a battlefield after people have been slaughtered, but the positive peace where each person can achieve their highest dharma. In Hinduism, of course, there's plenty of room for everybody. We have room for the people that see God nowhere, that's the atheists, or the people that discover God in the temple through bhakti, or those who meditate and discover God consciousness within, Raja Yoga. We see all that unfolding, living together harmoniously, and everyone does what they love. You know, we see divinity in even the plants. They love to reach for the sun. Divinity in the farmers who love to tend for the plants. Divinity in the businessmen who buy and sell the food products. And divinity and love in the kshatriyas who love their duty to protect the rest of society. And finally, divinity in those who go within and realize these states of consciousness. So how is this going to unfold? I think we want to, as Hindus, first find peace within ourselves, then peace within our family. My guru, who won the United Nations Youth Thought Award for Peace, they asked him, how can we achieve peace in the world? And he said, well, you have to work within your sphere of influence. If your sphere of influence is just your home, then stop the war in the home. Stop arguing. Stop fighting. Stop criticizing. And that will radiate out to your village, and to your city, and to your state. And that is how people like us who don't have political power can do our part to achieve peace. Once we have peace in our hearts and peace in the home, we want to go and talk to these places that might be open to a peaceful solution and a new way of looking at things and a higher consciousness. Where would these be? These would be the yoga schools. Just the same thing that happened to me many years ago. They have some understanding already, of course. And once you sit down with them and explain that their asanas are one of 8 steps leading to a peaceful God consciousness, I think you'll find many people accepting that. Now, of course, we don't proselytize. We don't want to convert. You know, it's a sin, I think, to forcibly take someone from their religious faith and try to make them into something else. My guru's guru said that it's a sin to kill a tiger in the forest, but if he comes into your village, it may become your duty. So Dharma depends on the circumstance. We don't proselytize, but if someone is sincerely looking and seeking, then it's our duty to explain Hindu Dharma, right? We want to not neglect people who are sincerely seeking a better life, sincerely seeking the goal of all life, to know what it's all about. Hinduism, of course, we have some very good answers to those questions based on experience, not blind belief. So I think that is the prescription for a peaceful world that we can do today on a practical, in the home, in the heart level, and we can foresee how this will radiate out to the world. So that's my message for today. And very happy to have a chance to talk with all of you and look forward to the rest of the program. Om Namaste.
Thank you, Isanji. Once again, a wonderful note. Isanji, this is indeed the need of current times, a peaceful world, and our Vedic literature is a great prescription to that. And once again, Isanji is the California director of the Hindu American Foundation. You can reach him. And I will say this, Isanji has excellent courses for learning Hinduism, a must-have for everyone. All right, with that, we will go to our next topic. Our next topic, I will be presenting this one, Know Your Vedic Scripture and Hierarchy. Let me begin by showing you some quotes that you can read from the eminent scientists of the 19th and the 20th century. The core foundation of the Hindu belief is the Vedas contain the source of all knowledge, physical and metaphysical. And great scientists too assert that. And I have few quotes. They assert that Vedas not only contain metaphysical knowledge, but is full of knowledge and seed for physical sciences. And there are many things in the universe which are mentioned in the Vedas, and their existence has been proved by science. Vedic heritage is about rational thinking, about the greatest common good, about dharma, right conduct, about our existence, and the realization of the supreme divine, the most essential goal of life. The Vedic literature and texts are beautiful, sacred, and vast. And I want to quote one thing from a great philosopher, Arthur Schopenhauer. He says, if the reader has also received the benefit of the Vedas, the access to which, by means of the Upanishads, is in my eyes the greatest gifts to mankind. So beyond today's 10-minute presentation, I invite you to discover the marvel of our ancient heritage, and not only discover, but also learn and share the eternal truths contained within. So what is Vedic literature? See, Vedic literature comes from the word vid, to know. Vedas are considered divine and eternal. They've been written around 1500 BC, but they actually predate that by thousands of years. And today only 3%, it is claimed, of the Vedic literature remains available to us. And that is the volume of Vedic literature that we have available is massive. You put all other scriptures together and it pales in front of the current available Vedic literature that we have in our hands today. Now, broadly divided into two categories, Shruti and Smriti. Shruti describes the sacred texts comprising the central canon of Hinduism, the Vedas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. And we'll go into this a little bit more in shortly. And Smriti, that is recollection. It's the class of Hindu sacred literature based on our memory. And it is the entire body of our post-Vedic classical Sanskrit literature. And it comprises of darshanas, Puranas, Itihas. And Smriti texts are composed by divine personalities and they're still authored by man. And hence they cannot be equated to what is Shruti. So in this respect, Smriti literature is always considered as secondary texts. And Smritis have varied from time to time. And based on the surroundings and the essential conditions of the Hindu society that was changing, new Smritis had to be compiled by sages of different ages in different parts of India. For example, the duties of Varnashram and all the ceremonies are clearly given in the Smriti texts. Now, Shruti, it's a direct experience. Great rishis heard the eternal truths of religion and left a record of them for the benefit of posterity. And these constitute the Vedas. And Shruti is the primary authority. All right. So as mentioned earlier, the two branches, Shruti and Smriti literature, you see Vedas and Upangs, these are the Darshan Sutras. They're also a part of the Shruti literature. Smriti is divided into three parts or three portions, the Itihas, the Puranas, and the Dharma Shastras. And only the literature from Shruti is considered technically Vedic. But when we look at our whole encompassing tree, we include Smritis because these are the day-to-day lessons that we learn of and applicable for our life. Now, Vedanta is known as the end of the Vedas. It is the juice of the final essence of all Veds. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive into our Vedic literature on the Shruti side. So there are 4 Vedas: Rig Ved, Yajurved, Samaved, Atharved. And each of these Veds have 4 subdivisions. On the bottom left, you'll see the Samhitas. These are the mantras and the benedictions. The Aranyakas, these are texts on ritual ceremonies, sacrifices. The Brahmanas, these are commentaries on rituals and ceremonies. And Upanishads, these are the texts discussing meditation, philosophy, and spiritual knowledge. And the division of the Vedas into 4 parts is actually to suit the 4 stages in a man's life. So Samhitas, these are hymns in praise of the Vedic God for attaining material prosperity here and happiness hereafter. And so these are metrical poems comprising of prayers and hymns and incantations to various deities, both subjective and objective. And this is recommended for those who belong to the first of the 4 ashram orders, one who lives in purity and studies the Vedas for the first 25 years of life. The Brahmanas, these are the portions to guide people to perform sacrificial rites, and they are prose explanations of the method of using mantras in the yagna or sacrifice. And this is suitable for the householders or the grihastra ashram from the age of between 25 to 50 years. The Aranyakas, these are the forest teachings. These are mystical sylvan texts which give philosophical interpretations of the rituals, and they're intended for the vanaprashthas, or those who prepare themselves to take sannyas, or leading the 3rd stage of life, what we refer to as between 50 to 75 years of age. And finally, the Upanishads. These are the most important portion of the Vedas. They contain the essence or the knowledge of the eternal supreme truth. In fact, the Upanishads claim that there is no separate individual soul, and that is the one and final conclusion of the Vedas, which culminate in Vedanta. So Upanishads reveal the most subtle and deep spiritual truths. And these are recommended for the sannyasins, those who are ready for the complete renunciation in life. And so the 4th order or stage, which is the 75-year to the 100-year of age stage. Now, even though this is the recommendation, anyone who begins early into the Upanishads, the better it is. And the whole subject matter of the whole Ved is divided into Karma Kand, Upasana Kand, and Gyan Kand. On the bottom right, you will see Vedanga and Upved mentioned. So Vedanga is also referred as the 6 limbs of the Veda. These are the 6 auxiliary disciplines of Hinduism that developed in ancient times and have been connected with the study of Vedas. And the term Upved, this is called applied knowledge, is used in our traditional literature to designate the subjects of certain technical works. And 4 types that are specified are Ayurveda, as some of you are probably familiar with the medical field, Gandharva Veda, music and dancing, Dhanurveda, which is the martial arts and military, Satyapa Veda, which is on architecture. It's also called Silapa Sastra. Now, Upanishads, right? There are 10 principal Upanishads. Now, these refer to the spiritual knowledge obtained by the disciples that sit near a realized guru, and the guru tries to destroy the ignorance of the disciple through a conversation. And these are in the form of dialogues, as those of Yama and Nachiketa, Varun and Bhrigu, Yajnavalkya and Maitreya. In fact, I would also go on as far as to say that the conversation in Bhagavad Gita between Lord Krishna and Arjun is also a kind of an Upanishad, as is when also Lord Ram, when he was attaining the knowledge from his guru in Yog Vashisht. So the Upanishads are the superconscious experiences of Atma, the soul, by several rishis, and that forms the foundation of our Sanatana Dharma. So the 10 principal Upanishads are listed here: Isha, Mandukya, Prashan, Aitareya, Kaustika, Katha, Taittiriya, Brihadanakya, Chandogya, and Kena. Now, of these, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Brihadanakya are the most deep and important Upanishads. These unravel the mystery of life and leads us to go beyond senses, body, mind, intellect, ego, so that we can comprehend the divinity that is prevalent in us and the cosmos, the divinity that is beyond time and space. Our grand Vedic Mahavakyas come from these Upanishads. Now we'll take a quick look at our Smriti literature. So as you recall, the three portions: the Itihas, the Puranas, and the Dharma Shastras. Let's start with the Itihas. So Ramayana, composed between 500 BC and 100, that was the composition, but it predates 12,000 based on current archaeological evidence. And it is one of the most popular Hindu texts, and it is known as a Smriti literature, the remembered tradition. And this is considered by some people to be of less importance than Shruti, which is the heard text, such as the Vedas, but it nevertheless is an important place within our Hindu tradition. And now Ramayana, so this story is written in 24,000 couplets, epic poem that is 24,000 verses. It consists of 7 books and tells the story of Lord Ram, the king of Ayodhya. And this work is, attributed to the poet Valmiki, and it's probably written by more authors, but has been embellished over the centuries. And Ramayana is the cornerstone of our religion and literature, not only in India but in also other South Asian countries, such as Indonesia, Bali, and going even further east. Puranas. So the Puranas are a class of literary texts. They're also written in Sanskrit verse. The composition dates to 4th BC to about 1000 AD. And the Purana means old, and generally they're considered as coming in a chronological aftermath of the epics. Though sometimes Mahabharata, which is generally classified as a work of Itihas, is also referred to as Purana. And there are 18 major Puranas, as well as similar number of minor Purans. As you can see, there's Vishnu Puran, Brahma Puran, Shiv Puran. These are the big groups, and then within these you have 6 Purans. So in Vishnu Puran, you've got 6 Purans like Vishnu Puran, Narad Puran, Padma, Garuda, Vraha, and Bhagavatam. In Brahma Puran, you've got Brahman, Brahma Vaibhanta, Markandeya, Bhavishya, Vamana, and Brahma. In Shiv Puran, you've got Matsya, Kurma, Linga, Shiva, Skanda, and Agni. So among the Vishnu Puranas, the Vishnu Purana and Bhagavad Purana, which is, by the way, Bhagavad Purana is also known as Bhagavatam, and with respect to their standing, works of devotional literature, are preeminent. And Bhagavata Puran is, is the supreme work of Lord Krishna in devotion for all of us. And since each of these 18 major Puranas enumerates other Puranas, it's reasonable to surmise that all the Puranas were revised at one point, and their lengths vary considerably. Skand Puran, for example, has 80,000 couplets, while Brahma and Vaman Puran have 10,000 couplets each. Now, the third part of our Smriti literature is Dharma Shastras. The textual corpus of Dharma Shastra were composed in poetic verses, and this constitute divergent commentaries and treatises on duties, responsibilities, and ethics to oneself, to family, and as a member of the society. These texts, involve the discussion of ashram, which is the stages of life, varna, Purushastra, which is the proper goals of life, personal virtues, and duties such as ahimsa, non-violence, against, and rules of what is a just war. And, you've got Manu Smriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Narad Smriti, and Vishnu Smriti. Now, between the 4, Manu Smriti is the most famous, and it came to light by the colonial British when it was actually publicized in England and translated. And it is one of the ones that are more popular. Now let's put together what we've looked at in all the slides. Now I've got two slides. Well, the first slide I want to show you is the tree of Shruti literature. As you can see, we discussed this. You've got the 10 principal Upanishads here. Then again, everything is a part of our Vedas. And you've got the 4 Vedas. You've got the Vedangs. As I said, these are the 6 limbs of Vedas. Upved, they're the 4 parts of technical sciences. And then there are also the Darshan Sutras that I didn't, because of time, I didn't cover that today. But this gives you a very great picture on the categorization and the breakdown of Vedas into Upanishads, Vedangs, Upved, and Upang. And within this structure, it becomes much easier as a student to follow the whole Shruti literature. And one slide I'd like to share is this is the final system of the hierarchy. And as I was mentioning before, the hierarchy starts with the Shruti literature, which has the 4 Vedas. As I was mentioning, it's divided into Gyan Kand, Upasana Kand, Karma Kand, and then you have the Smriti literature as well. So with that, I would like to conclude, and hopefully I've given at least 1,000-foot or a 10,000-foot perspective and introduction to our Vedic literature. Thank you. And with that, I will pass it on to our speaker. All right, Srini ji is our next speaker. Srini ji is from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, and he lives in El Dorado Hills. Without further ado, please go ahead, Srini ji.
Hari Om, everyone, and namaskaram to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the US state government for declaring October 2021 as a Hindu Heritage Month, the members of the Hindu community of Greater Sacramento for organizing this event to celebrate this proclamation, and to all those who have taken time from their busy schedule to participate in this event.
Sriniji, you may want to go a little bit back. Your face is not visible.
Okay, sorry. Okay, now can you see it better? I can't see my face on the video here.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Isanji, thanks for the excellent introduction to Hindu Dharma. And Divya ji, you did a great job on laying out this overview of invaluable scriptures within Hinduism and the way it is organized. It's pretty heavy lifting job. Now comes my part. What is now? What do we do now? What do we do next? What is needed of this time, current time? So it is a question that I want to answer briefly in my presentation. And I plan on focusing on what an individual can do within oneself and within his close sphere of influence, which again echoes the thoughts of Isanji earlier about how one should change and his family should change before we decide to change the community. It's the Hindu Dharma. So some of the thoughts that I'm going to be sharing in the list, most of you are already doing it, and most of these ideas will resonate with all of you and your thoughts. And it's not a complete, exhaustive, or prescriptive list by any means. It is just the Shruti that, if I may allow to use the word here, that came within me that I'm sharing this few of the items here on the list. And if time permits, please forgive me for any of the errors or omissions. And if time permits, at the end of the presentation, please feel free to engage me with any clarifications on it. Okay, so the first thing of the need of the time that I see particularly is being a Vedic warrior and not a WhatsApp warrior. What do I mean by that? Today, social media is literally ruling our lives, or in fact, ruining it as well to some degree. Everybody is busy sharing information, whether it's good, bad, it's truthful or factual, in WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all over the place. And all the various kinds of information is shared, even a lot to do with Hinduism and its the way it's being practiced, the traditions, customs, and all that. There's a lot good about it, and there is a lot of noise as well about it. So sometimes the facts are very exaggerated, they're biased, they're skewed for an incomplete, and sometimes misrepresented as well. So there appears to be a lot of reactive way that everyone is expressing themselves in this social media. It's like the freedom of expression, as I see, is being exercised relentlessly in the social media. That's how I see it. So if we have to do something much more responsive and in a very responsible way, then it's very high time that we start going back and getting our basics right. And to get the basics right, and we need to start learning about Hinduism. It's whole bunch of scriptures which are innumerable, and they're too deep as well. But at least we can try and do what we can in our lifetime. And in my slide, I had put Sanskrit as one of the languages that I wanted to promote. It's not that I want to promote Sanskrit. One can even master one's own mother tongue or any other language which grew in the Indian context or Indian continent, subcontinent. Because there is a lot of commentaries, Vedic texts, expressions. A lot of them are written, Puranas, Itihas, or translations, wonderful ones, and wonderful interpretations have been done in each of these respective languages. So learning a language, one of the indigenous language, Indian language, be it Sanskrit, Tamil, Pali, Kannada, Marathi, or Kashmiri, will be really helpful. It will give you a special privilege to go and read and enjoy this text in its purest form from the source. And I believe that can help you with some clarity in your thought process, that you can make a very rational decision as to how you want to respond to some of these information that's being shared in the social media, as well as to be very helpful to present the information in a way it doesn't hurt or disrupt the communal harmony and the peaceful coexistence that the Dharma has always attained, has wanted to attain, or that's been one of the goals of Dharma, is finally all said and done, we all have to live. So Dharma had its say in every walk of life. That's a beautiful thing about the Hindu Dharma or Hindu heritage. In every walk of life, in every aspect of living and life process, as it stands today, it had its commandments, it had its comments, it had its commentaries. It gave way, which are even relevant today, and they are not outdated, and they are applicable today. So learning a language opens up a whole new vista of learning in everything in its purest form. So that's my first point, is learn Sanskrit. That in turn can help us, or learn your mother tongue and try to read more about yogic sciences, Vedic sciences, Vedas, Puranas, and all those limitless knowledge and abundance of knowledge available in Hinduism. That's the first thing. And also, by doing this, I'm not trying to learn just to counter or change the discourse on a social media. It is to change. It's a life changing in itself. At a very individual level, it will change us, and it'll change your family. It'll help us, share this information in a much more so-called scientific way with my, daughters. I mean, with my, children, who will question you a lot of the annoying why questions when you do any ritual at home. Why do we do this? What is this? Can't we not do without it? Why do we? All these questions. When you want to answer those questions, many a times I'm encountered with no answers. I mean, I'm not able to give them a proper answer. So my request also is that by learning all this, at least I'm able to, give them some meaningful and some clarity to why we do what we do and how we do in this Hinduism. That's another biggest advantage of this. And the last thing is, in this topic is, in this need is, if time permits, I would like everyone to write some articles and publish few of the things, well-researched articles, to add or to bring more clarity and share information with the fellow human beings. That's how you can keep this eternal Hindu Dharma in practice, and the whole keep it in limelight always, the Hindu Dharma. So that's the first one. The second thing I want to talk about is the support and volunteer thing. When I want to talk about it, I want to begin it by thanking a lot of people who I see are diligently volunteering their time and financially supporting a lot of temples, shakas, missions, monastic institutions, and non-profits and all that. There is that drive in them to help. I'm so very thankful about it, and it has always inspired me. So guys, I mean, all of you, please continue doing that good work. And know very well that a lot of us have a deep gratitude for your service. I want to make it very clear. So while we continue doing that, there are a few things that I would like to point out. When we volunteer our time in any of the temples or any other public gatherings, I would request that we make acquaintance with people that whom we do not know. We introduce ourselves to them, and our families to them, and start building a good relationship with those people. It's not only just acquainting, and it's becoming a part of a sangha, building a sangha. They say Sangam Sharanam Gacchami in Buddhism, which is a wonderful saying. So building sangha is very important. And for that, we taking the first step of talking to people that we do not know. I don't want to call them as strangers, but very nice human beings who would come there to that occasion, and introducing ourselves and making the occasion more enjoyable for everyone. So that's one thing I wanted to point out here. Second thing is that's always been close to my heart is this Vedic Patashalas, which were part of the Gurukula system, which were one of these backbone of that supported the Gurukula system of Indian education. Now those are declining across the country. So if we can, we should help these Vedic Patashalas, both financially or any which way that we can, and ensure that we keep this tradition alive. Because without them, a lot of these scriptures are going to go into oblivion. We won't be able to, as Divya Datta was saying, Divya Ji was saying, only 3% is available. If you don't support all these Gurukulas and all that, I mean, this Veda Patashalas, very soon we may not have much left remaining, because they really help us in carrying on this tradition. Okay, that's another thing. And the last thing in this is, as Hindu Dharma dictates, we involve ourselves in community activities, we partake in community activities, participate there, volunteer, and do things. At the same time, we can develop relationships with the local government representatives so that we can have a voice heard with them. It's important that we have good relationship with them, and so that they can help us in all what we do, in all our activities. That's important. The last point is we should support these print media and the social media that is really promoting some of the Hindu traditions. Of course, it's challenging to know which is what to decipher it, but largely, if some of these print media is printing books or something, we can at least pay a little extra money, few dollars extra, to buy a good book in a good quality print, rather than seeing them printed on a bad quality paper. And as a boy, I always used to wonder as to why such valuable shlokas and prayers are being printed in a very poor paper, that if a couple of times if we turn it around, they get torn. So by supporting and spending some extra dollar on it, I wish we can support this media, so print media, so that they keep publishing all these good books that we can share with our family and friends and keep it all alive. That's the next one. Please, the next slide, please. Next page. Next page. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. These two needs that I'm putting up on this slide is very close to me, and it's one of my favorite ones. One of the things that we can do as a Hindu Dharma follower is start practicing the family's traditions more closely. That is, speaking in mother tongue at home, and singing hymns that we were taught as young kids along with our children to keep the tradition alive. And then, making special traditional dishes during special occasions, and wearing our colorful traditional, attires, dressing up in a colorful traditional attires on special occasions, or even other for that matter, even in normal occasions. I would like that. So our people know, our children know what it is, what our tradition was, and all that. So that's very important to me, and that's what I mean by practice one's family tradition. And the last one is
quick time check.
yes, yeah. The last one is I would like these festivals that we celebrate to be celebrated in a very memorable way. What a memorable way is that it is the children, or the younger generation gets the importance of the occasion. We take time off from work on that at least one festival day in a year, and do it in a very grand way at home, so that they understand the importance and they continue the tradition. So these are the few things that I would like to share, and I see that these are the needs of the current time from as a normal common man, as we would say. And thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for hearing me out. Thank you, Dipji.
Thank you, Srini-ji. That was Srinivasan Sundaraman. And this is very important, as Srini-ji has said, right? If we don't do anything with the knowledge and the learning that we do, then we're not furthering this knowledge that must be passed down to our children and families and grandchildren. Thank you. Now we will move on to Shubhashri ji again, who will sing us a bhajan. Over to you, Shubhashri ji.
Namaste. I'm going to sing this beautiful prayer, and with my two daughters, Sadhana and Amrita. Namaste. All right. Sarega 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 pa gapada sa risa nida pada ni nida pama gama pa pama gari sarega gari sani gari re sa sare re ga gama ma pa pada gani ni sa sare re ga gari sa हे जगदाता विश्वविधाता ये सुख शांति निकेतन है हे जगदाता विश्वविधाता ये सुख शांति निकेतन है प्रेम के सिंधु दीन के बंधु दुख दारिद्र विनाशन है प्रेम के सिंधु दीन के बंधु दुख दारिद्र विनाशन है नित्य अखंड अनंत राजी नित्य अखंड अनंत राजी पूर्ण ब्रह्म सनातन है पूर्ण ब्रह्म सनातन है हे जगदाता विश्वविधाता हे सुख शांति निकेतन है जगाश्रय जगपति जगवंदन अनुपम अलख निरंजन है जगाश्रय जगपति जगवंदन अनुपम अलख निरंजन है प्राण सखा त्रिभुवन प्रतिपालक प्राण दाता विश्वविधाता हे सुख शांति निकेतन है हे जगदाता विश्वविधाता हे सुख शांति निकेतन है सरे ग ग पा गपद सा रे स नि द पद नी नि द प म ग म प म ग रे स रे ग रे स नि द नि रे सा स रे रे ग ग म म प प द द नि नि सा स रे रे ग गा रे नि ध सा. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhashriji. That was wonderful. And it was lovely to see how you're passing on the teachings as well as the singing to your daughters. Thank you so much. We all feel blessed with your beautiful bhajan, and every single word has a very, very deep meaning. Thank you.
Thank you, Divyaji. Thank you so much.
With this, I'll pass it on to Venuji. He is the chief organizer for the event. Venuji, over to you. You're on mute, Venuji.
Yeah, can you stop sharing so that we will see Sree Iyer on the screens, Sreeji in the screen.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, today's keynote speaker doesn't need any introduction. He is a very well-known person in Indic and Hindu think tank, an inventor, author, and out-of-the-box thinker. Sree Iyer has 37 patents in the areas of hardware, software, encryption, and systems. He is the founder and CEO at pgurus.com, currently living in San Jose, California. His latest passion is in writing about all matters related to money. His first book, NDTV Frauds, has been an Amazon bestseller. He is also the Amazon bestselling author of the book Who Painted Money White. Let's welcome Sree Iyer ji and hear his words of wisdom on this occasion of celebrating the Hindu Heritage Month. Sree Iyer ji.
Namaskar. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Venuji and the entire team for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. For me, I don't know how to express this, but I grew up with Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism all around me. I grew up in Hyderabad. We were very fortunate that we lived very close to a temple. Going to a temple was almost a thing that you did every day. Especially when there was exams around the corner, it became twice a day because really wanted the help of the blessings of the gods. My topic today is celebrating the global Hindu, and I'd like to kind of take a step back and try to define who I am. For the outsiders, we are all Hindus, but inside, in my opinion, we should refer to ourselves as Sanatanis or followers of the Sanatana Dharma, because that is the one that is on which all our thoughts, our conduct, our way of life is based. It's okay if people refer to us as Hindus, but inside we know that we are Sanatanis. And the reason we have to say this, internalize it, is because if you look at what we follow, the meaning of the word Sanatana Dharma, again, there are many ways to interpret this. To me, Sanatana Dharma means eternal flow. Dharma has many meanings. To me, the one that I find more appropriate in this case is Dharayati iti Dharma, which is one that flows. So this eternal flow has been here for God knows how many thousands of years, will be there for another thousands of years. It's just that we are mere travelers, but we should try and leave the earth on which we have descended in a better shape than what we came into. This is really the simplest way to explain our goals. Now, one of the things that people ask is, oh, you are a Hindu, how come you have so many gods? You know, someone, if they take a little bit of time and effort to get into a little bit deeper into this, they'll find out there's actually only one God, Parabrahma. And this is, you know, encapsulated in a couplet, you know, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sree Gurave Namaha. So the Guru in all our lives played a very, very important role. And in fact, it was that way up until 1822, 1823, 1830s, when it got completely dismantled. The Gurukul, the concept of universities that existed in India, all those got dismantled. But up until then, you know, it was that was primary in the way they taught how to you know, lead life, what to understand. In fact, a study, A Beautiful Tree by Dharampal, says how many English writers have said that it didn't matter which Gurukul you went to, some things were common. Three things especially: the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Bhagavatas, because understanding them, understanding and listening to the stories that were embedded in these gave you what exactly was life. You know, whether it was betrayal or whether it was loyalty, anything and everything, these three compilations told you, itihasas told you what you need to expect in life. So if we go back to the same thing, the thing that I said about having only one God, we need to just look at Adi Shankara's Saundarya Lahari. Well, I'm just going to, with your permission, quote a couple of lines. This is the very first phrase in the Saundarya Lahari. Shiva Shaktya Yakto Yadi Bhavata Shaktah Prabhavitum Nache Devam Devo Nakula Kushala Spanditu Mapi Atah Tvam Aradhyam Harihara Virishad Bhirati Pranantu Stotum Va Katham Akrutah Punya Prabhavati. The meaning of this is the nature represented by Shiva becomes functional only with the presence of energy, that is Shakti. There is no purpose of the existence of one without the other, and neither can anything else exist. Therefore, the one worshipped by the Holy Trinity, one needs to have done virtuous deeds in their previous lives to have the enlightenment to worship and sing your praises. So this is in praise of Shakti. Now, you know, once you start digging a little bit deeper, you understand that Shakti, manifestations of Shakti are Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga, and the manifestations of Shiva are Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. So you see, as you start looking at it a little bit more depth, you realize that at the end, it all comes back to one thing, which is Parabrahma, and Parabrahma is the combination of Shiva and Shakti. And Parabrahma has no form, but when you have to ask people to worship Parabrahma, it is difficult for them to have something that has no form to worship on, which is why perhaps the gods started happening. We started seeing them in the form of sculptures. I'm just trying to explain the rationale behind why there are so many gods. And the Sanatana Dharma, you can think of it as an open architecture. It gave you the flexibility to choose which form of God you wanted to worship, and that became your family's God, and it went from generation to generation. So this is the beauty of this dharma. And also the person who doesn't believe in God, even he has a place here. So this is the most inclusive and most scientific religions. And why I call it the most scientific is because we have the phrase Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande. What I am is a part of the universe or the cosmos around me. And then people ridicule us on things like, oh, why do you do 108? What is the significance of the number 108? Because whenever we used to pray, I don't know if we do it still here, it depends upon family to family, but anytime you had a difficult endeavor in front of you, you prayed to your favorite God or Ishta Devata, you said that if I succeed in this endeavor, I will break 108 coconuts. Or, people, if you look at your grandma, they'll be counting beads. And if you look at the number of beads, it will be either 108 or sometimes it will be 54, because often they used to wear that and 108 beads may be too heavy. So what is the significance of this number 108? It is a very scientific reason why it is considered significant. If you divide the distance from sun to earth and divide it by the diameter of the sun, what do you get? 108. If you divide the distance of earth from moon and divide it by the diameter of the moon, you get 108. If you divide the diameter of the sun with the diameter of the earth, what do you get? Again, 108. So this goes back to the thing, Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande. And many other things, symbols that are in Hinduism also get poked at. I can give you some of my understanding, because again, these are all, each one has to understand. You have to spend time listening to, reading, and internalizing some of these things. For example, what is the speciality of the word, the sound Om? Now, Om is nothing but the energy, the sound of the energy of the sun rays reaching earth when you bring it down to audible range, when in a range where your human ear can hear. So the Om, when you try to analyze what is in the Om, you put it through what is called as a tonoscope, and then you get what is called as the Sree Chakra. You see, so anything that you are looking at, everything has a reason, it has a cause, it has a perspective that we need to understand. But many of us indulge in some of these activities without understanding what it really means. But the point here that I'm trying to make is that this is perhaps the most inclusive, the most scientific, and the most richest religions that you can think of, because it gives you a path to understand who you are, what is your purpose on earth, and how can you make things better around you. This inner peace that you can get can only be achieved when you start internalizing and understanding what is it that you are here for. This is a question that all of us ask ourselves, some at a later part in their life, some at an earlier part in their life. So this is an important question, because once you understand that, then the life becomes much more easy, much more enjoyable. Now, here I'm going to make a claim that all of us today on the world are all Sanatanis. Why is this true? Sanatana Dharma, as the name implies, is eternal, right? So let us say that you may be of either a Christian or an Islam practitioner of Islam, or a Jew, or any Buddhist, or anyone. But if you happen to be practicing yoga, then you are a Sanatani. Why do I say that? Because if you look at who was the first yoga teacher, it was Lord Shiva. And who were the first students? It were the seven rishis. So if you, and again, in yoga, you are taught a lot of things, especially when you try to get into some of the higher level courses, the consciousness and so on and so forth, the chakras in the body, how to open them, and so on and so forth. So this is a key element where why do we practice yoga? Breathing. It's nothing but breathing. And then you're trying to take into what is called as asanas or postures, which helps you in balancing your imbalances inside your body. So all these things tell us that doesn't matter which religion we are professing today, our dharma is one and the same. In fact, evidence of Sanatana Dharma can be found almost as far west as the Caucasian countries, including some artifacts have been discovered in places like Lithuania, Germany, and so on. So you see that this was the one that was being practiced until the other Abrahamic religions came along. So if someone were to find out what was I before that, then the answer would jump out at us saying that we were all Sanatanis. Now, one of the interesting things that I discovered in the process of publishing articles in P-Gurus was that Divyadeepji mentioned about Ramayana and Mahabharata and other Upanishads. Now, I'm going to give you some specific instances where we can actually go back and date and establish a factual presence of when these events happened. Divyadeepji, a little bit of a disagreement with you on the dates. The Mahabharata is supposed to have concluded on 3102 BCE, before Common Era. Yours, I think, said 5000, but these are okay. I mean, these are all where we look at, because the reason I'm saying that it is more accurate to say 3000 BC is because I've had 5 or 6 subject matter experts take look at the stellar positions, decode Vyasa's verses to come up with the dates, and that comes to around 3102 BCE, before Common Era. However, the same date I happen to chance upon on a different direction, and this has to do with the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam. Now, many of you know that this is perhaps as rich, or if not richer, than the Vatican, and the amount of bhakti and the amount of money that this temple generates is so much that the government of Andhra Pradesh is always keen to take that money and use it for the common good. I put it in double quotes because it's a little bit political. It's another way to steal. But what is important is now there is a movement, there's a case in the High Court to try and return the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam back to the original people, original trustees who were running this. So as part of this, we wrote a series of articles we published a series of articles in P-Gurus, and it turns out that in 1802 BCE, before Common Era, I'm sorry, 1802 CE, not BCE, 1802 CE, Common Era, the first British collector from East India Company commissioned a study to understand what exactly was Balaji temple, what was the lineage of this. And there was a book written in Telugu, interestingly titled Savale Jawab. And I happened to read that book, and it talks about the lineage of which kings patronized this temple and where did it all begin. So it turns out that nobody knows when the Balaji temple, and if you've been there to Tirupati, it's an imposing murti of Balaji there. It's huge. I don't know if it's 12 feet or 14 feet, very, very, very big, and certainly very impressive. It turns out that the first king who made worship possible, because this is up in the hills, possible, was Janamejaya, who was the grandson of Abhimanyu, so the great grandson of Dharmaraja. And Janamejaya was the first one to come and clean up the path so that people from the lower plains could go and get visit this temple. And after that, for 2,500 years, this temple was under a Pandava king, because the Pandavas themselves, divided and subdivided into smaller and smaller kingdoms, and so on and so forth. So this book traced the lineage from there all the way up until 1833, when this temple came to be maintained by something called as Hathiram Trust. And then for about 100 years or so, they were managing it, and then the British took over in the 1930s. And after that, it's been under one form of the government or the other. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that if you go back a little bit, you can find that people today, that are alive today, they actually derive their lineage all the way from Lord Rama. For example, the Jaipur kingdom, they have a list of which king, and so on. And in that list, you will see that the last is the Jaipur kingdom. So there is proof existing about the occurrence of Ramayana here, the occurrence of Mahabharata. And this is now written. It is maybe not available in a language or in that the West can understand, but we as Sanatanis have known this all along. And this is the important thing that we have to hold on to and say that, look, we are Sanatanis and that we have the solution for the world, for eternal peace for the world. If this first we need to understand as Hindus ourselves, that we can give that guidance, that leadership, that help for others who may be materially rich, but who are not peaceful, inner peace, who are seeking inner peace. We can be the ones who can show them the path. Also, a couple of other things Divyadeep ji kind of kindled in me. One was the fact that he said Mandukya Upanishad. Believe it or not, Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao used a quote from Mandukya Upanishad, I think, to explain why he was reforming or introducing reforms into the government. And he quoted that Sarvanashe Samutpanne Artham Tyajati Panditam. The meaning is, when everything is collapsing around you, a wise man will give up half his wealth for a better future. That was his explanation for what he was trying to do when he was ushering in the reforms. And like this, we will see many places, many instances where we are observing what has been handed down to us either by form of Vedas or Upanishads. For example, when I was a young person, I had mastered Taittiriya Upanishad. In fact, I can still recite it if I put my mind to it. And I've always taken away one line from there, which to me is my guiding principle, and that is Satyam Vada Dharman Chara. That is, speak the truth, walk the path of dharma. And like this, there are so many jewels embedded in all our Upanishads and Vedas, that we all can find the answer to our questions just by looking inwards. Now, the challenges for us when we look out is that we see that Hinduism is under attack. Why is Hinduism under attack? The regrettable part is, this is, for the most part, it has emanated from within what used to be part of India, meaning Pakistan, which was part of us until 1947. And if you look back and see who is creating the ruckus, who are passing all these anti-Hinduism, Hindu-phobic statements, proclamations, talking to people, senators and congressmen, and asking them to write letters, you will go back and see that the origin of this is 99% people who are from Pakistan. And it is very, very regrettable that these people don't want to admit their own heritage. I mean, this is something like, it's like they know that within that we are Hindus, but they don't want to accept it. And for some reason, that hate is what is driving them to keep, taking pot shots at what is essentially their own religion. But the good news here is, like Amrit coming from Samudra Manthan, this churn too will result in Sanatana Dharma giving spiritual leadership to the whole world. So, as a global Hindu, what can you do? Sreeniji mentioned a couple of very useful points. The simplest thing that I can say is, understand what Sanatana Dharma is. This is not something that there is a book. It is no Bible here. There are so many things that you can listen to and understand. But the most important thing is, anytime you get a question in your mind where you are not able to find an answer, you will usually find it in Sanatana Dharma. And Uncle Google is very helpful these days. You can go and look at what it is. Sometimes you can give the phrase that you are, worried about in your mind, or something that is that you are seized of, and you can get the answers, and you will find, lo and behold, somewhere some reference to an Upanishad or something else from where you will get the clarity for that. Now, wherever you see an incorrect depiction of Sanatana Dharma, jump in with both feet and rebut their arguments. And I can tell you, if people just listen to this 30-minute talk, there are so many things that I have given here that they can go back and say, okay, this is why this is this way. This is why this is this way. By the way, I also should mention here that in Buddhism, the number 108 is considered very sacred. In fact, when you bow in front of Buddha, you bow 108 times. So this is another reason why Sanatana Dharma is all encompassing. Under it is Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, Zoroastrianism, and you name it. And in fact, I would be so bold to say that even Islam and Christianity are also under that as subset. It's just that people don't want to accept it. They have too much vested in these religions. But those who are willing to sit down with you and indulge in debate or tarka, you will be able to convince them that whatever it is that you are saying, this is already there here. And what is really needed is, just as Sanatana Dharma and Sanatanis respect other religions because everything is a path to God, the others have to respect that we are Sanatanis and this is our way to reach the God. Now, again, the most important thing when people say that, oh, you have millions of gods, the simplest answer is there's only one God, and that is Parabrahma. And Parabrahma is a supreme Brahman, and who is both Shiva and Shakti combined. And one then say, okay, well, that is why, because Parabrahma is not visible, it doesn't have a form. That is why, all these forms came, and that's how you started having all these different gods. Now, the most important takeaway is that one life is not enough to understand Sanatana Dharma. I can only marvel at Adi Shankara, who lived just 32 years, but he left us with such great works that we can cherish. If people have time, you should read some of his works. Bhaja Govindam is a very meaningful song that he wrote, Saundarya Lahari, and there are so many more works that Adi Shankara has written. Now, the other interesting thing is when you start debating these things, first couple of ones may be a little rough, but once you get into the flow, you will start seeing that the opposition almost always just quotes you selectively. They'll take something and then they'll do a selective interpretation and say, oh, this is what it is, Hinduism, and that's why it is wrong. And having a slightly more wider background will help you counter these things, and that will give the width and the gravitas for anyone to try and explain what it is that Sanatana Dharma is. At this point, I'd like to stop my part of the section, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take those questions now. Hello. Venuji, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
If there are any questions, guys, just type it up. In the meanwhile, one question, Sree Iyer, are there any recommended books that you can recommend here for people to kind of have a quick understanding, or kind of a list of books?
Absolutely. There are books written by Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati. He also is referred to as Mahaperiva. He was a Kanchi Mutt head, lived to be 100 nakshatra years, and he has written a lot of books. Voice of God, it's a series of books, and it's an excellent one because in that he talks about common day experiences and how you can experience God even in simple things. That is the other thing. You say there is God everywhere, but how do I feel that? How do I experience that? And some of those things are provided in this series. It is given, it's called Voice of God. And it's just a series of lectures that he gave over many years. And my family is truly blessed because my grandfather from my mother's side was actually from Kanchipuram, and he was around the same age as Mahaperiva, and they've had many debates, so it's a very enriching experience. See, sometimes I wonder how I transitioned from an inventor, a technocrat, having started a a few startups and close them and so on and so forth. How did I go into P Gurus? And it's something like a voice from Ava saying that, this is what you should be doing for the rest of your life. And that's how I, embarked on this journey. And in this, I've met so many people. I've had the opportunity to listen to so many matter experts. And if you can listen to even or remember half of what they said, you become much more, complete as a person.
I think there is...
Namaskar.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Namaskaram. I'd like to introduce myself first. My name is Chandrasekhar. Thank you so much for organizing this. In fact, I'm an avid follower of P Gurus on YouTube. And thank you so much for putting the content that you do in the various topics that you do. So one thing that is near to me and near and dear to me is the free temple movement that is happening in India. And I've been following that and bought the book by Jaisai Deepak. It's a fantastic book. Now, the concern is very valid, and I think there is an emotional connect with everybody. But at the same time, people are also wondering, how would we execute this? What next? Why should the government relinquish their control over temples? And even if they did, how would we take it from there? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, simple answer to your question is there are only 20 significant temples that generate a lot of money, which is what the government has its eyes on. And coming up with trustees and dharmakartas for these 20 temples is not that difficult. And there is a plan that's already been put in place. Some experts have already worked on it, because this question is going to be asked in the Andhra Pradesh High Court, where Dr. Subramanian Swamy has a case, because the judges will ask this question, assuming that we hand it over. Who do we give it to? And that at that point, we don't want to, kind of spill the beans right now, but at that point, this will become revealed. This will be revealed. I gave you an example of Hathiram Mutt, Hathiram Trust, and the AP government, in its infinite wisdom, tried to run them down. They dismissed the latest Acharya of Hathiram Mutt, because saying that he was corrupt, and then put a government officer. And as part of that research is where we did this book called Sawale Jawab. We found that out. It was actually buried in TTD library somewhere in a corner. And we took that out, read the thing, understood what it was, and somebody put down an excellent, timeline of what happened. And a lot of the arguments that they used to repudiate the government stand was based on these articles. And then now the Hathiram Mutt chief has been reinstated to his post. The government officer has been kicked out, because government wanted to try and prove that even if we give control, we would give control to this thing, because you go back in time, everybody knows that before India became independent, the British had taken over in 1933. So it would be and they took it from whom? Hathiram Trust. So the idea was to collapse that argument. So it is still alive. So Hathiram Trust may not have the same kind of intellectual heft to run something as big and well efficiently run temple. Don't get me wrong. The management of the temple, the efficiency with which it is run is excellent. What is not good is the fact that there has been allegations of misappropriation of the wealth that belonged to the temple, and that is where the big problem is. Also, they are also trying to break down a lot of the customs that were established by Ramanuja in the 10th century. He came, he solidified, he codified all the things. How should it be done? Who should be the ones who should be doing pujari? Who should be doing administration? Who should be taking care of the kitchen? Who should be taking care of the treasury, and so on and so forth? All these institutions, they were being done by families, and that is being broken up because they wanted to kind of dilute it. And once you have the expert taken away from the scene, then it's much easier to do whatever you want. So this is going to happen. The other big temple, Padmanabha temple, you already know that the family of Travancore has a very prominent say in that. And there are a few more temples that are just as rich. and it will play itself out. There are enough number of well-meaning dharmic people who were also either in an IPS or IRS or IAS officers who will be very happy to take over and run these things, but they will be wearing, just like the way I have changed my direction. They might no longer be a bureaucrat, but they could be a bhakt, and then they can take over and do it. I know for a fact that at least there are half a dozen very well qualified IAS officers who can just step in and along with Hathiram Math's help, run TTD even better than what it is doing now. Because right now what is happening is there are lots of misappropriations that are going on underneath the current, and it is difficult to bring out these as proof to challenge the government. But be that as it may, it is happening, and it will be fixed. I mean, it is essential. If we don't go back and get control of our temple, then we basically are letting go of our rich heritage. This will be one of the hardest fights. Just stay tuned and watch how this plays out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that answer. Do you
I
have
want
a
to
follow-up question, but I can wait until later when we have time.
Yeah.
So I think, Venu, I want to do a quick time check. So we are at 6:30. Do we have time for a couple of more questions, or should we?
Yeah, I think if Sree Iyer has time, we can do a couple of more questions.
So let us
I'm
keep
fine.
it short,
I'm fine.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I? Okay. Can I ask a question in the similar
Sure.
lines, continuing the TTD issue? Would that also, help us address the temple issue in Tamil Nadu? And
Oh.
what about this melting the gold in Tamil Nadu temples? I mean, these are two different issues, but
Srini, the Tamil Nadu temples is a very, very sore subject. However, there is a way to establish a reference, and that reference was something the British did called Inam Register. The Inam Register was established in 1864 or 1874, one of those two periods. And in that, every temple of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh, almost all the temples, the lands that belong to them, the way the thing was set up, who should be doing what, the people who are supposed to be in charge of it, who had the lands to till, but they had an obligation that they could only keep a small portion for themselves, and the remaining portion had to be given to the temple for prasad making and puja rituals and all that stuff. So these kinds of things are all there in that Inam Register. And to me, that is a reference that we need to go back to and say, this is the reference, and here is what this used to be the temple's wealth. I'm talking about not just gold, but also the land that temple used to have, and then start looking at, okay, these are all the encroachments that happened, and you start systematically evicting. In fact, there is a much more easier way to solve this problem, which is the Meenakshi Sundareshwara temple in Madurai. Now, there is a case that happened in, I think the case was filed in early 20th century, and in 1968, a Supreme Court bench ruled in favor of the temple. So the story in short is that there were two brothers who were given the responsibility for tilling a piece of land, and whose proceeds were supposed to go to the Meenakshi temple. And this land today is worth about 3,000 crores. It's in prime area of Madurai. What these two did was that one of them passed away, the other one somehow managed to sell this land to a group of Chettiars. And the Chettiars, in turn, after 10-15 years, sold it to the Roman Catholic mission. And essentially, from that point forward, the Roman Catholic mission has been occupying this. They're sitting on this property. Now, the ownership, the Meenakshi temple, they've been fighting this. In 1968, they got the judgment in their favor. This was the highest court, full constitution bench. It was headed by Mr. Hidayatullah, and a very fine judgment. But what happened was, when the government, which was DMK then, that was the first time DMK was in power, the DMK created a mischief. The Tahsildar, who is supposed to take this thing and issue the summons to Roman Catholic mission to say, vacate this property, it doesn't belong to you, instead gave it back to them. And this is actually contempt of court, the highest court. And something like this, if somebody takes up, and I think T.R. Ramesh has a case in this, if they win that, then you start going back and establishing these timelines back to that Inam register, because the sooner we get back to that Inam register, and then we can start moving forward again, then you start establishing, okay, these are all the things that these temples have. Because if the temples are given back the properties that they own, then they can do two things. First off, they can run themselves. Second off, they can do a lot of work towards dharmic things such as Vedic Patashalas. Right now, like you correctly pointed out, other than some small pockets in Kumbakonam and in Kaveri Delta, Upper Kaveri, like in in Karnataka, there are very few Vedic Patashalas, and it is really, really needed, because there is something called as Bhasha Anga, where Vedas have to be constantly reinterpreted, understood, and applied for modern day life. This research used to happen, but now it is going down further and further. This needs to be revived. So I hope I answered your question. These are some of the things where the key judgments will help Sanatanis get back their temples.
Thank you, Sree Iyer. So if anybody has a question, if you can raise your hand.
Amar, there are a few questions on the chat box if you want to pick up, right?
Yes, so I think the first one was Satish. If you can just quickly ask the question, I don't want to read it out. So Satish Nagaraj.
Satish, you can unmute.
Satish, are you there?
Yes, sir. Shriji, I'm looking for a single, strong, united voice in a Sanatana Hindu Dharma. I'm not seeing that actually. You touched the topic of gods. Are the gods uniting or dividing us? Or anything help to unite within Sanatana Dharma? What are the things? What are the steps we can do?
See, this is the thing. See, Sanatana Dharma gives you the choice of how you want to pray. But at the end of the day, there is only one God, and that is Parabrahma. Now, this thought needs to, people have to internalize this. And why is this being said? And you have to read a few scriptures. Like I said, Voice of God is an excellent series of books that tells you this. Because once you understand that it doesn't matter if my God's name is this or this or this or this, at the end, everything leads back to this primal thing, which is the Parabrahma. And that is the goal that will help us understand that anything else, whether, whatever be our occupation, whether we want to follow Varnashrama or we want to be like, okay, I belong to this particular community, all that is fine. Because the Sanatana Dharma gives you that flexibility. You can be whatever you want. And you can even be a non-believer. But the point there is, at the end of the day, there is something called Parabrahma. And you can experience it. That is where the disconnect is, because people will say, okay, so you said there is God everywhere. How do I experience it? How do I know that there is a God? So for that, there is some things that you have to do. You have to go back to some of the good things that happen to you, some of the bad things that happen to you, and you'll be able to connect them, especially in Kali Yuga. Before they used to say, what you did in your previous Janma is now coming and haunting you. In Kali Yuga, many people say that what bad you do will come back to you in the same Janma. And you will know that, okay, I deliberately did something wrong to this person, and I've got, this is the effect of that. So these are all things, again, I said, you need more than a lifetime to understand this. At the same time, there are points where we'll have that awakening. That awakening has to come within, and that will happen. And once you happen that, then there's no looking back. Then you understand the true power of Sanatana Dharma.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have Manohar, who can you ask your question here?
Yes, thank you, Amarji. Namaste, Sree Iyerji. I'm so glad to talk to you today. I watch quite a bit of your shows on YouTube. So thank you for taking time to answer these questions. I'm asking a kind of general question, nothing specific to one particular issue. As you mentioned in the beginning, it was a universally agreed fact that there was a great educational system in India. You have mentioned the merits of our, let's call, Sanatana literature or education or Gurukula system. No disagreement, and not to challenge the awareness of that explanation. But I know it took a lot of time, but eventually our people lost for the foreign invaders. I always wonder, so what was missing in our education system at that time? Even though it gave a great long fight, but eventually we lost. So what was missing in our system at that time, and how can we bring that back, or how can we reintroduce that into the current education system so that we can offer next new generations?
Manoharji, you have asked a very, very good question. And for understanding what happened, we have to look at two things. One is, Bharatavarsha, which is the area that I would say modern day Afghanistan all the way up to Indonesia, all the way down. This was self-contained in that you didn't need to go and invade some other country to get anything. Everything was right here available. There were skirmishes between kingdoms, but there was never, a need to go beyond this. And even when they fought, the wars were fought according to a lot of rules. And this is explained even in Mahabharata, that, it's sunrise to sunset only. And then the war was fought only in an open space, open Maidan. After the war was at the end of the day, everybody went back. Sometimes they were a common camp for kitchen and everybody ate there. And then the next day the things started. So India was sort of like self-contained, and the Ashoka's realization of what happened in Kalinga sort of set the thing, where Buddhism started taking again another resurgence. I say another resurgence because Adi Shankara was in 2500 BCE. 2500 BCE. Again, people say no, it's 6th century, but there are Adi Shankaras is like a whole bunch of lineage of Adi Shankaras. Every time there's a chief, there is a next one comes in. So people think that after Ashoka, the whole area started shunning war. And in fact, if you look at the temple, Konark temple, if you talk to the guides there, they say that many people had forgotten what it was to wage wars. And that's why the king built the temple, and you have inscriptions of war, how war has to be waged. But the long and short of it is why India lost was two reasons. One was greed. The other was technology, pure technology. India lost to Muslims because India's primary fighting weapon or animal was the elephant. And the invaders were having horses. I mean, you can make the argument that weren't there horses in Mahabharata too? Yes, there were. But things had changed. If you look at whether it was Alexander versus Porus or beyond, even Hemu against Akbar, they were all on elephants. Rajaraja Chola conquered almost all of the Deccan based on elephants. So there is a technological shift. And the same way, when the British came, the British were able to, outmaneuver the Marathas and the remaining Mughal clan because, again, of superior technology. These people had guns. The other side, they were trying to get guns from the French and so on and so forth, but it was not in an even exchange. And that is how technologically we lost. And it's very unfortunate that India didn't think that if that person can do this, why can I not do this? And this becomes, there are many things where you have to have infrastructure, you have to have measurement techniques. India had very precise measurement techniques. However, India's strength was not in killing each other, because it never believed that you needed to kill somebody in order to acquire land. There are lots of stories, like, for example, Prithviraj Chauhan. He let go of Gauri. How many? I think they said 16, 17 times. Every time the guy would apologize and say, okay, go. He wouldn't kill him, or he wouldn't make sure that this troop of nomads would again come back. So these kinds of things were there. Unfortunately, these were all the reasons why India lost out. However, the dharma underneath never lost. That has always been there. Unfortunately, because the British were 22,000 and there were 220 crores of us. They needed us divided in every way, shape, or form. And those divisions exist till today. It is for us to understand that this is the reason why we are so divided, and that it should not be just a cricket match that unites us all. It should be more things. And I'm hoping that once some of these temples come back to the Dharmakartas, a lot of the things will start changing. Already you're seeing that the younger generation is fine, cool to feel that, being Hindu is good. I mean, when I used to go to college, I used to, put vibhuti at home, do, ask me, do prayers and all that. And then I would consciously wipe it out and then go to the college. I didn't want to be, seen with my vibhuti, even though I used to wear it once in a while, and they would ask me and say, oh, what is this? And, it just didn't feel that you should be wearing that. There was a certain hesitancy. Those things have to go. And I'm hoping that that will go soon, because the awareness is now here.
Thank you, Ayerji.
Thank you, Sree Iyer, for that. So I think we have maybe time for a couple of more questions. So I think Inder, you can go next. Inder, maybe you're on mute. Inder, are you there? Okay. So maybe Chandra, you can go. You have
Thank you, Amar. Thanks for that. So, Sree Iyer, as I was saying, the whole temple movement has been near and dear to me. Something it struck chord in me. So, and I desperately wanted to help. And being a technologist, the best way I thought I could help is by offering a solution in the digital space. So, I've been working on a solution for the past 4 months. In fact, I got a chance to show it to a couple of people. It was very, very well received. I've not opened it up yet. I don't want to hijack this session here, but I definitely would love the opportunity to present a solution that's a digitized solution that can engage the masses and really add a lot of value to the free temple movement. Please let me know how I can reach out to you. I'd love to. Absolutely.
You have my email address. It's SNI, Sree Iyer, SI, my initials, at pgurus.com. You can send me an email and we'll pick it up. I mean, I've talked on many channels where I've said that fundamental technology like distributed ledger technology is ideal for, implementing the assets of a temple, or for even elections to make sure that it is bulletproof, and so on and so forth. So yes, there is a lot of things that are there today with not much cost. You can implement some of these technologies to solve these problems. You understand what is going on right now, right? The minister post in any government is essentially auctioned. This is how I see it. And the guy puts in so much money to outbids everybody else and gets the post. And then that's an investment. And then the return on investment is bribes. So this and this goes all the way down, even government posts, even like a peon. That guy knows that when he is entrenched in his job, that he's going to get a return, and he's willing to pay 3-4 lakhs. There is a tier section. So this has gone all the way up to the top, And Modi ji is trying hard, by the way. Modi ji is trying hard to break this thing, but we have been the status quo is so well entrenched that any honest officer today who takes up the cudgels is actually the one who gets fired first, not the ones who are dishonest. That is the reality, because NDTV frauds, the whistleblower got fired. And he doesn't even have retirement benefits. And CBI wants to prosecute him on a fake charge. So why? Because he has got a lot of the top revenue officers by the short hair. So these are the kind of challenges we have. If we could just wipe the slate clean and start, we would do a lot more efficiently. We could do a lot better.
One additional question there. See, I understand that the top 20 religious institutions is where they have their eye on, and there's no dearth of leadership or volunteers to take care of that. But what about the second tier or the third tier temples, where definitely there's a need for a collaborative effort to revive the process there, and what can be done about that?
So that is the broader question about Inam register, because every temple has its own sustaining mechanism built in. The kings thought this thing through. They gave the manyams, they gave all the land. By the way, an interesting story I wanted to tell you guys. I don't know how many of you know this or not. If you've been to Chennai, there is a church called Santhome, Santhome. It is on the coast, on the sea coast. And actually that church was built by the Portuguese. They demolished the existing temple called Kapalishwara temple and built that church. Then Krishnadevaraya fought the Portuguese on both coasts, east and west coast, and defeated them both places. And then what he did was he recreated the Kapalishwara temple a little bit inside where it is now standing with the same rocks. See the thing, this king didn't go and demolish that church to build the temple back on there. How many of us know this fact? That is the thing. This is the greatness of Sanatana Dharma. Because he said, okay, fine, there may be some people who may be practicing Christianity. Let them do it. I will create this temple a little bit more inside. That is how today's Kapalishwara temple stands where it is. It was rebuilt brick by brick, or I should say pillar by pillar, from taking it from there and brought here. Amazing. Some of the things that, kings like Krishnadevaraya did in his 20-year reign, I mean, it will take 200 years for somebody else to do it. Some of the most precious ornaments that Balaji had were all gifted by him.
Wow.
Okay. So I think we ran like more than 20 minutes over. Thank you, Sree Iyer ji, for spending that extra time with us. You have posted your email. Everyone has your email. You can reach out to Sree Iyer ji. I watch your videos. A big fan. Thank you for taking your time and coming here. Enlightening us with your knowledge, and also kind of giving us your recommendations on your books and resources. And as a general theme, right, we all need to educate ourselves, because that is something that I see lacking amongst us. Is we are very reactive in our approach. So we get very upset when we see certain messages in social media, but when we react, it is almost as if we are shooting ourselves in the foot because we are ourselves not as knowledgeable as we should. But I'm sure with these sessions, we will be able to get the right resources, put in that extra effort, and help uplift ourselves and support our dharma. Right? So I wanted to thank everyone here for their participation. Some excellent devotional music by Subhashri ji, and also it was really beautiful to hear those songs. I wanted to have a few closing prayers, and then we can close the session. Here are a few. So whoever knows these can chant along. The first one is the Mahamrityunjaya Japam that I wanted to do 3 times, and then we will go over a few more. Om Trayambakam Yajabahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarvayuvabandhanan Pratyor Mukshiyamamritaad. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarvayuvabandhanan Pratyor Mukshiyamamritaad. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarvayuvabandhanan Pratyor Mukshiyamamritaad. What this means is we meditate on the 3 eyes of the Absolute that permeates and nourishes everything like sweet fragrance, just as the ripe fruit is released from its bondage to the stem, so may we be freed from death to dwell in immortality. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. May there be happiness to all. May there be peace in all. May there be completeness in all. May everyone prosper. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukha bhad bhaved. May we all be happy. May we all be healthy and free from illness. May we all be prosperous. May no one suffer in any way. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om, lead me from ignorance to truth, lead me from darkness to light, lead me from death to immortality. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Everything is complete and whole. I am also complete and whole. From wholeness, wholeness is created. If wholeness is removed from wholeness, what remains again is whole. Thank you. Thank you for participating.
Thank you, everyone. I do want to share, we do have another virtual event next week, October 31st, from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. to celebrate the Hindu Heritage Month. The topic will be Nari Shakti, woman focused by women for all. I will just quickly share the screen. And please pass this on to others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.